I recently learnt this really cool trick from a producer called JAUZ. And to summarise what he taught me, he said to high cut your basses around the 7K or above mark.
Why filter above 7K? Basically, like, here, listen to this sound with and without. So here's without the filter. Here's with the filter.
Essentially what we're doing is cutting out any sounds in the high frequency that don't really need to be there for the bass, so that other elements of the track can be heard more clearly.
So now the hats and the synth aren't fighting for space, and the mix will sound 100,000 times more clean.
Now let's try implement this trick into some of my tracks and see what kind of results we get. So let's look at the first track. So this is the project without the 7K trick. Let's go into the bass channels and change them. So let's solo the basses. And let's grab our Pro Q3 and let's apply 7,000 mark around about here. And let's hear how it sounds. So let's hear it without and with. So that's sounding to my ears quite a lot different already. So let's apply it to this one as well. So let's just see. So we're gonna have to turn this up a little bit, it seems like. Let's see what it sounds like with the drums now that we've applied it. So let's hear it with just the hats. So those hats are sounding way clearer with it on. I'm just wondering if the hats sound a bit too loud now. Let's hear it. Let's hear it without. So what I'm getting from this so far is that it really does improve the mix down. So the hats sound great now around the bass, but the bass does lose a bit of its oomph, and maybe you can fix that by like adjusting the levels of the bass afterwards. So like I've just got a limiter on here, so just turning up on here. But I feel like this would be most effective if you start out with a EQ like this put on as the very first plugin, and then you do whatever you do to it afterwards, so that you're sort of creating the sound around the fact that these frequencies are missing. But with that said, I've come to a conclusion that around here sounds pretty good for it. Let's move on to the second project and see if we make any other discoveries. Alright, so let's listen to another drop here. Okay, so let's grab the bass, and we've got our EQ here, and let's apply 7K to it. So this is with it without. This is with. Yeah, I quite like it on that, to be honest. The hat definitely sounds like it's coming through more. Let's have a look at the hat, see if we want. To me, that has worked incredibly well. It's got some weird sounds in the above frequencies. Like, it sounds more aggressive, but it also just doesn't sound right in the mix. I mean, when you apply this, you can hear the hi-hat nice and clearly. I've boosted the hi-hat a little bit so you can hear it better. But yeah, overall that sounds way better. Maybe I'd turn the bass down even more. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I don't really have anything to go against that. I think I would literally leave it on the 7K mark. Maybe I would adjust it later on in the final mix down, but to me that sounds pretty good. Let's move on to the third track. So for this one, there's quite a few different basses. So I'm just gonna apply the EQ to the bass bus. I don't recommend you do this normally. I'm just gonna do it to save time. So let's play it. Alright, so we've got our Pro Q3 here, and now let's apply the 7K to it. So to me, this doesn't seem to work right now. So if we listen to it, I'll tell you why. So you can hear all the drums pretty well on this, and the bass sounds fat. And then if I apply this, the basses sound really muffled and they just don't sound as good. I mean, you can hear the hi-hat even better, but the bass just doesn't sound right anymore. So let's try maybe changing this slightly. So I'm just going to use the scroll to do this. So that's not really done anything. So let's try 8,000. That's sounding a little bit better. Let's try 9,000. Let's try 10,000. And maybe we could like duck it here by a few dB. So this is without, and this is with. So to me, adjusting it like this, around 10,000 gives us more benefit to the mix down than it takes away from the bass. So maybe it's not always a 7K rule as such, depending on the bass sound and where you are in the mix down with the bass. So if you're mixing it down right at the start, you could try turning off at 7 and then see if you can adjust it other ways in order to get the sounds from different frequencies. Just remember that if you're EQing it at the start with the 7K trick, you need it to be on the last slot as well, the same EQ, because you could have a plugin in slot 2 that brings back sounds and frequencies that you took out in the first one. So from the 7K rule so far, I've learned that it might not always be 7K. You might have to boost it a little bit more than 7K, for example 10K here, just to get some of the sounds you want still in it. And you've got to make a sort of decision whether you want to have that sound in the mix and have the mix suffer a little bit, or take that sound out for the benefit of a cleaner mix. Alright, so we've got our final project here. Let's listen to it. Okay, so let's get the bass and our EQ and let's apply the 7K technique to it. So that is sounding very different. So let's bring this up 1,000 at a time again. I'm still not happy with that. Let's try this. Still not happy with that. Let's try 9,000. You can see that it's taking out a lot of the frequencies that are giving it that sound. This is a weird one because it like don't want to, maybe I could get rid of the sound from like here, but I want that sound that's here. So 14,000 is where I'd be happy to get rid of any bass sound, but from there down it just ruins the tune in my opinion. You can hear the hats way more clearly, but the drop just loses that oomph that it had before, and the bass just doesn't sound very good anymore. So from this last tune, it's clear to see that this 7K trick doesn't work all the time. So it is really all about trial and error. So what I'm going to do from now on is keep this technique in the back of my mind and always apply it to basses before I start working on a bass. And then I can come back later, turn it off, apply the full sound to it, see if it sounds any different, turn it back on again, and then make a decision whether or not to leave it as it is. Because I think it is really important that you keep the mix down as clean as possible, but then there are going to be circumstances like this one here where if you apply the 7K, it's just going to ruin the tune. So that's really interesting. I'm glad I've gone through this final tune as well, and I hope this was helpful to you. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this 7K technique, and let me know if you've had any success or any issues applying it to your tunes. If you want to get your hands on some sample packs, link in the description, arcnade.com. And there's also a free production cheat sheet you can get your hands on, also link in the description below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take it easy.